Nvidia figures what?
You guys have a lot of money. You should buy more merch, I guess.
Well, let's talk about this, right? Because what is the rationale here? Okay, so okay, let's role play. Okay, I'm going to be Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang. Okay,
oh, wow,
and you're going to be
fantastically wealthy.
You're going to be a gamer. Okay,
you have a beautiful kitchen.
You
and a nice jacket.
Yeah, I was going to say, you haven't even complimented my jacket. Okay, so I'm Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, and I'm going to try and sell you on the RTX 4090, which is coming on October 12th.
It's going to be hard to do.
It looks like it is going to be shockingly fast. Some cool new features, DLSS 3.0. How many freaking CUDA cores does this thing have? I don't know. We don't actually have like a spec chart here, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but oh yeah, here we go. We got some images on the LTT forum. Hey, massive shout out, Big Stroons on the LTT forum for posting this. They're saying up to 2x to 3 times the performance of the 2 to 4 times the performance of the 3090 Ti, 24 gigs of GDDR6 memory. Where's my CUDA cores at? Yeah, here we go. Compare 40 series specs. Here we go. Let's just go ahead and show my screen for a minute here. 4090, 16,384 CUDA cores, 2.5 gigahertz boost clock. That's unreal. 384-bit bus. 3-slot card, yeah. 450 watts with a required system power of 850 watts. That seems optimistic. I guess we'll see how that goes. Why wouldn't you want to give me $1,600 for it?
Well, the power cable and power supply situation is a little sketchy.
Okay. But, like, realistically, you've got $1,600, so just buy another power supply.
You just hot swap everything, even if it melts after 2 hours of gaming?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's not going to melt. Come on, gamer, be realistic.
Didn't that actually happen?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I was skimming through a Jay's 2 cents video earlier today, and he was talking about how, like, the cable that you need is rated for, like, 30 plugs, or 30 plug cycles. 30, like 30.
Yeah, but like,
and like he noticed changes. He was sitting there doing it, and he noticed it like start to feel different just while he was sitting there doing it like 5 or 10 times. And he said that bending the cable, like everyone does when they're cable managing their cable, will like significantly reduce the life cycle of it. It just. Yeah.
Well,
also,
then, I mean,
money.
You've got $1,600, so when it wears out, why don't you just buy another one?
Yeah. I think it would be extremely hard to convince me right now, if I was a buying consumer of graphics cards, to buy one of those, unless I just hated money, compared to what's happening to the used market right now.
Okay, but you still haven't answered my question. I mean, why not? Why not just buy a 4090?
Money.
I mean, you will just go earn more. What's the matter? Do you not have money?
No.
Okay, because like I have lots of money. So why don't you have lots of money?
You should look into an incubator program.
An incubator program. Yeah. So just to be clear, guys, we're role playing.
Yes.
I'm Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, and Luke is a gamer.
Yeah.
I should look into an incubator program, right? But I'm not the one who needs to figure out how to make more money.
Yeah.
You're the one who needs to make more money.
Yeah,
so
so you should start an incubator program for other people.
Look. Okay, shut up.
Yeah.
None of that is my problem.
Yeah.
I have 4090s to sell.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I've booked all this allocation with TSMC.
Well, you screwed over EVGA.
No. See, I don't want to talk about any of that.
There's some question marks about.
No, I've got these.
No,
I've got these 4090s to sell. Okay, I need $1,600 for them. So you got to do your part. I did my part. I built the 4090.
I got to get another job.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the least that you could do.
The least that you could do. What a fantastic way to send it off.
Okay, so in all seriousness,
people are going to buy them. And
like, what's the rationale here though? Like, was the design of these cards done during, pandemic era pricing when they didn't think that when they thought they could just spend? Is it a super expensive board? What's the justification here? Help me.
They may have commit to certain things during pandemic era stuff, but most of these designs happen way further out than that. right?
Man, you can be finalizing the board design in the like
Definitely.
months leading up to
Yeah,
launch.
like
Yeah.
there could have been some changes, but I think the main goal would have already been established. Um, he does say that chip prices going down is a quote unquote story of the past as wafer costs have increased and Moore's law dies, which I think is extremely convenient if you are a big fan of leather jackets and excessively expensive kitchens.
Yeah, and the other issue with that is that we kind of experienced that with the 30 series, right? Where they went way up in price as the chip shortage went
got
on.
real big.
And you know what? It's not like we didn't see news of chip fabs like TSMC saying, "Hey, yeah, pricing is going up." That did happen, and it's not like that has unhappened necessarily.
Yeah.
But the issue is that the actual the actual GPU itself is a fraction of the total cost of the board. So even if it went up 25% or even if it went up by double, that doesn't necessarily mean that a top tier GPU should cost this much more than it did last time around. And honestly, for the alleged, obviously we haven't tested it yet, but for the announced performance of the RTX 4090, it's not that far off as long as you accept the premise that the performance per dollar isn't going to change.
Right.
If it is that much faster than a 3090 Ti, okay, fair enough. I guess it's not that outlandish. Where we really start to run into trouble is as we make our way down to the 4080 and the 4080 12 gig, which is, as far as I can tell, not a 4080 or even necessarily a 70 class card at all. And I remember us talking about this back when Nvidia launched. I think the first time they pulled this move was with the 680. So you guys will have to go way back in time with us. What was the code name of that GPU? GTX 680 GPU code name. So that would have been Maxwell. Was that Maxwell? I can't even remember. Kepler. Okay. So that GPU was called GK104. And typically, the way that NVIDIA names their dies is that you've got G is for GeForce. The next letter is for the generation, for the architecture. So it's GK for Kepler. And then you'll have to forgive me. I'm actually not sure exactly what the 10 is. Is that because it's 10 series? Can't remember. That might be the generation or something like that. Anyway, the number I'm really focused on is the last one, the 4. And the way that NVIDIA determines that last number is the lower the number, the bigger the die. So a GK100, I can't remember if they had a GK100. So you'll have to forgive me. It might have been like GK102 or something like that. They had a 110. There we go. So 110 would have been the, oh, no. Hold on. You'll have to forgive me. Where are all the die names? Give me the die names. I need a thing. Here we go. GK104 is as low as it went for that one? That doesn't sound right. GTX 6, because what was the 780? 780, code name, die. Hold on, come on.
I think 104 was the lowest, and then they just like stretched it.
Is that right? Because I thought that... No, GK110 was the big one. Okay, and I think the second number was because it was like a mid refresh. So anyway, the point is that GK104, okay, so when they launched the 680, it was a much, much smaller die compared to the preceding 580. And the die size itself was more in line with what you'd expect from a it was either, I think it was a 560, like, class product. And so what that meant, essentially, was that NVIDIA had, I mean, to their credit, done such a good job of optimizing the Kepler architecture compared to the preceding Fermi architecture that they could get away with competing with AMD's top-tier product with a mid-range product. So that was, to my knowledge, the first time they took what would ultimately end up being the second down tier die design, the smaller die, and got away with branding it as an 80 class product. Then when they released the 700 series, which was also Kepler, so that was Kepler again rather than an actual architectural change, we got to see big Kepler, and that was the big dog GK110. So that's where you've got that 0 at the end. It looks like the numbers are not always that straightforward. So oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not even gonna dig into any of this. So there was a 208, if I recall correctly. That was like when they did the I don't know. There was another thing. Doesn't matter. The point is, the lower these numbers, typically the bigger the die. So what we can see here is that when we look at the die code names for the 4000 series, and when we look at the memory bus width, not only is the 80 class getting a step down design with only a 256-bit bus, but the 480 12 gig is actually getting a wimpy 192-bit bus. So what that seems to suggest is that Nvidia, aside from not using like a 70-80 class die for this supposedly 80 class product,
60%.
is actually using like a 60 product class die. So we're getting like a much smaller die. And so the reason that I'm so focused on die size is that tends to be, generation by generation, what determines the relative cost, because that's what you're paying for. So you got your wafer, which is about like yay big, and then the cost per wafer is some cost with all the processes that you have to apply to it in order to turn it into finished chips. Then you slice it up at the end, and whichever individual chips do not have egregious problems with them turn into finished products, right? So if there is a problem on the wafer, wherever the problem is, whatever die that problem sits within is ruined. And so your yields are going to be, I mean, almost nobody actually discusses yields, but they'll be somewhere between 0 and 100%. And they'll never be 100% because good luck with that. And they'll never be 0 because that wouldn't be a viable product, because you wouldn't be able to actually make any of them. So within that wafer, which has some cost, you can either slice it up into a few big chips, which also increases the chances of each of those having some kind of error or problem, or you can slice it up into many small chips, and those are your more budget-oriented products.
And if there's errors, they're more contained.
Yeah, and so you are going to see wafer costs continue to rise, but even then, what we've seen so far is that increase in wafer cost has not necessarily resulted in an increase of 50% or a doubling generation over generation of cost. And you need only look as far as like Intel's, whatever their top tier consumer chip is, year after year after year, these die sizes have not gotten much smaller. And their prices have not gotten much higher. They've tended to go up by 5 to 10% generation by generation, not in the same kinds of leaps that Nvidia seems to be targeting here. So I think that aside from just being mad about it, though, what can we do is the question.
Nothing.
Well, there's a couple of things.
You can not buy it.
Okay, that's one. And we've seen, based on what's happened with 30 series. Oh, yeah, right. So it comes back to the whole thing that happened with 30 series. Clearly, what drove the increase in price was demand.
Excessive demand.
Not the cost of building it. I think we can all see that very clearly now.
And I want people to make sure that they don't forget that while retailer pricing and scalper pricing was going up, MSRP was also going up behind it.
Yep.
So these compared to previous MSRP, it's like, yeah, compared to which one? Because this product had MSR creep over time.
Yes. So I'm comparing to the launch MSRP of the 30 series, which Nvidia clearly felt was sustainable. TSMC did hike wafer rates during the silicon shortage, which was real and is still real. There are still industries that are affected by chip shortages.
There's still massive amounts of trucks and other vehicles just sitting in lots because they don't have chips yet.
It's just that high-end GPUs is not one of those industries at the moment.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm comparing to the 30 series at MSRP is because I think that's a very reasonable way for us to look at this, because 30 series at launch was clearly going to be sustainable. And while prices have clearly risen, Nvidia can clearly sell them at their original MSRP, which is what they're doing now. I doubt they're taking a loss on them. I suspect that they simply aren't making as much margin on them, but Nvidia is a public company, so we'll see soon enough if they actually had to write down this inventory or not. And I think that with enough pressure from either competition or from consumers, that we will not have to put up with this for an entire generation, or I'd like to think that. I suspect I'm going to
time
end
and
up
time
wrong.
again that consumers have no spine and will buy anything that is offered to them. So I don't think that's actually going to put much pressure on it at all. The only thing that might put pressure there is if it is actually just bad, because people will drop whatever. Like I don't think we're ever going to be able to pull everyone together and be like, don't buy it because pricing is bad and we need to like hold out. We need to, put a boycott on it. I don't think that'll function at all. But if it's just not a good idea, if it's just a bad deal, whatever, maybe less people will buy it. But seeing how video cards go, I think people are just going to rush out and do it anyways.